Hey everyone, Mr. Devil here, Kenny Danisco, three-time Stanley Cup champion of the New Jersey Devils, and you're listening to the Uncle Puckers New Jersey Devils podcast with Chris, Dan, Bobby, and Tony, the Uncle Puckers. Let's go Devils!
It's kind of hard to wear high heels or slip on banana peels. How does she get in and out of tubs? I hope she don't get mad. I hope she thinks this song is good, not bad. 'Cause we think that she's totally rad, she's nuts. No fingers, no toes, she doesn't own elbows. No front teeth, no knockies, no knock. She don't need knuckles or hands, she don't need mud like friends. She's always been fancy enough. She can't pick up a phone, she can't get dressed alone.
Who was that?
No Effects.
No
Ah,
Effects.
No
Okay, all right.
The song is
Very
actually
cool.
called Nubs, and it's about a girl they met at one of their shows who there's like a bunch of videos on YouTube, and she has no arms, and she hops up on the stage, and her real name is Tully Osborne, I believe. But yeah, Nubs.
Nice.
Nubs.
And they're retiring,
Nice.
right? They're doing their final thing now.
Oh,
No
wow.
Effects is wrapping it up.
Jeez.
Didn't they have that song? What was it called? Like, everybody gets blowjobs or something. Like it's about like the world, how great the world would be if
That was
everybody
the-
just gave everybody else blowjobs or something.
That was
like,
the Vegas Knights Stanley Cup song.
Was it really? Oh, okay, I get you now. I'm like, wait, what? Did I miss something? I just saw Avail this summer. That was fun. They were good.
Oh yeah. Good.
Yeah,
Good show.
yeah. They opened up for Frank Turner. They played with the Bronx. They were good.
I was at the
Bronx were
Fillmore,
pretty
the
good,
one
too.
you were talking
Yeah,
about?
exactly. We're the Uncle Puckers. Bobby, Dan, Tony. I'm Chris. So thank you guys for checking us out. What are you drinking there, Dan?
Today we're trying a variety pack from a company called Troegs. I don't know how exactly you're supposed to pronounce it. It's got the two dots over the O. Troegs?
Yes.
That's a very PA accent, Bobby. I don't know. Troegs. Troegs. Either that or a Coke. Get a Coke. Have some Troegs.
What do you
Go out on the
drinking there,
boat.
Bob?
Strokes, man. That's just how I say it.
No, you're
Bobby,
probably
this is
right.
up to you.
You're probably right.
I know I'm right. I've been there.
Yeah.
What are you drinking, Bob?
Never had it before. It's pretty
Water. I just got off work, man.
All right. Tone, what are you smoking? And
Yeah,
is that a joint or a cigarette?
a joint.
Oh, okay. All right. And so Bob and I are just on water.
good. How's the stuff in
Water, dude.
Lithuania? Pretty good
It's like
selection in
1980s,
Lithuania?
1980s dirt.
Because, New Jersey is now one of those, places where you can legally, so you haven't been here in a while.
Yeah, Florida's like that too. Where we live out in Florida in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, but don't you need like a medical thing in Florida? Is that how it
Medical
goes?
card, yeah.
Some kind of bullshit? Yep.
They're all
Yeah,
simple.
our-
Yeah, just
our
tell me.
big dispensary right down the road opens up, I think, this week, actually.
Wow.
What's today's date? Today's the 11th, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Tomorrow's the 12th is that Netflix.
That's the way it works.
The Netflix documentary comes out. It's on they have three quarterbacks. Did you see this? Three
No.
NFL quarterbacks.
Just got a
and-
notice about it, yeah.
Yeah, so they got they went like upper echelon quarterback, middle range quarterback, and kind of bottom row quarterback, and they're just walking through their lives over the last year. So it's Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota, and that comes out. I think there's 5 parts or something. Comes out tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, wow, I didn't
Sounds
know.
That should be
interesting.
fun. Yeah, I want to see my boy Cousins, who I'm not a giant fan of, but maybe he'll, come off a little bit more like a normal dork, and I'll like him a little better. I don't know.
Camp's like what?
Really
1
trying to
week,
like
2 weeks
Kirk
away?
Cousins. What's that, Tony?
Camp's like what? 1 or 2 weeks away now.
Rookies show up in a lot of teams. I think in 2 weeks. I think is like 8 or 9 teams, and then I know like Cleveland and the Jets, because they play in the Hall of Fame game this year. So I think they all come in 2 weeks for everybody. But I think rookies are like 2 weeks. A few days later, most of the teams. So by the end of this month, everybody will be in camp. So and then preseason starts, and before we know it, it'll be football season,
Oh, that's crazy.
which we will talk a little bit about too going into football season. Right
Oh,
now,
and
it is the dead.
those who are
of the
wondering,
friggin' offseason.
Bobby got a point.
What's that?
Bobby won last. He got his devil.
Yeah,
United.
so Bob, you did. We all listened. You said Joe Newendike.
I did.
but not with any confidence. is
Bobby,
all
I
I'm saying.
isolated your voice actually on that. Okay,
I'd
are
like
you
to
ready
hear that.
here? I have it
Yeah,
isolated.
you should.
It took me a couple
This
hours.
is
to do
important.
it.
We should
Yes.
play this.
It took you a couple hours to do it?
knows, but I am an adult. But these boys are with me.
You know,
You're
remember
right.
that.
I barely got that.
like
That was
marshmallows.
horrible.
It's very hard to understand. It was very hard to understand.
I mean, is Mushmouth the most racist character in the history of fucking cartoons? Holy
He's pretty
shit.
bad. I
may
mean,
have been,
especially the visual. The visual was like,
Yes, it's
you know, it was pretty
all
bad.
of Fat Albert were friggin' racist.
yeah.
Bill Cosby. I mean,
Mushmouth.
But they all pulled up their pants, so that was okay. You know, as long as they pulled up their pants.
Mushmouth was the worst.
Yeah. Remember, Bill had such a big problem with people not wearing their pants up high enough.
and then he would give him those drinks.
But yet he drew
And
him that way.
Yeah, I know. I don't get it. And he's in jail anyway. Wait, did he get
No,
out? Is he out now?
He's
then
out.
he's out
now.
now. I saw a meme of his. It was like one of those. What was it? Bill Cosby loves putting his dick where it doesn't belong. And I thought that
That's
was
a
like-
good one.
I mean, that was good because when I was a kid, you know, I just remember like you had all the pudding commercials,
Pudding
Fat
Pops.
Albert, the marker. What was the one with the? That was he had the marker where it like made the sound.
yeah,
and shit.
definitely.
Picture pages.
Picture
Picture
pages,
pages,
picture
yeah.
pages.
Lots of fun.
Lots of fun.
Picture pages.
I liked the
You know,
Cosby
when-
Show. I liked.
Grab your
When I
rape
was-
kit and your pencil or something like that.
He's getting the roofies and the pencil.
Exactly.
That was it. When my grandparents lived up in Edison, and I was up there one day, and I was staying overnight, and it was just me and my grandparents. My grandfather was the biggest racist scumbag in the world, right? I was a little kid, and my grandmother, you know, asked me what I wanted to watch that night, and it was, the Cosby Show was on, and I used to like that show when I was on, so she put the Cosby Show. My grandfather lost
He had
his
a fit.
fucking mind.
He didn't even know they were on TV, right? He had
Right, like what the hell are they doing
like-
having black people on TV?
and your grandmother's
He
like,
lost
I've been
it.
hiding this channel from him.
He turned it
he has
off.
No
He
idea.
was screaming at her in Italian. He was yelling at me like I shouldn't be watching this stuff. I was like, I remember like getting in the car and telling my dad the next day, and he was like, "That's one thing about your grandfather. He's a real asshole." You
Oh,
know?
I should have prepared you for this. Yeah.
I think
No,
it's that
I-
time that we explained to you. You're at the age now. Let me explain to you what a racist jerk off is. And he
You
just
know,
pointed to my grandfather.
It's their
That was a funny
generation.
show, though. I mean, and Lisa
It
Bonet
was.
was. Sorry, she was attractive. I thought when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Who?
Lisa Bonet.
She's
Yeah,
beautiful.
you picked she had the
Beautiful.
whitest
She had Lenny
features. That's why you
Kravitz,
said that.
Yeah, she
That
was
pick itself
gorgeous.
is
Yeah,
racist.
the Cosby Show was funny.
And Angel
No,
Heart
it
was a
was.
great movie.
I like that. I
Angel
don't
Heart
even know
was fantastic.
what happened to her. I think your
Lisa
daughter's
Bonet?
acting now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But-
The Zoe Kravitz was in the new Batman.
Yes, I forgot
she-
Batman. She's pretty good in that. She's all right.
Yeah, she's beautiful, and
We just kind of watched that some of that movie again, kind of rough. But my grandfather was also kind of racist. He was like from Texas though, so
Right.
that kind of racism is amazing. It's
Right.
like he would like throw around the N word like what he thought was a nice way. Like he's a really good N. And
Right.
I remember being very little,
Oh.
like this is not okay, and this is like 1980. I'm like, this is something's wrong with this.
Everyone was
you
wearing
know?
sheets at the table on their heads. And
It's crazy, yeah. So like those visits to Texas were very jarring, you know. That's a rough one.
you know, before my mother died, and she, like her last year or two, you know, started to kind of lose a little bit of the mental faculties, and she would say things, and like, so she would be telling a story, and she would say like, and then, you know, that asshole said the N-word, and that would be what, but she wouldn't say N-word. She would
Right, she
say,
just
then
go
would
ahead
say
and
say the word and
Right.
word. And I'm
Right.
like, no, Mom, it's the N-word. It's not the word. You don't say it like that. And she
Yes.
would do it all the time. Well, not all the time. It's not like she said, but at least two
Right.
or three times that I caught her saying, like, trying to be on the right side of things, but not
There's all
realizing
different
that she's
levels, aren't they?
spitting
Like,
the word out.
that's
Like,
not
no, Mom,
okay,
you
but
don't
it's-
say that.
I think I don't know what's worse though. Like that's definitely better than my grandfather using it what he thinks it's like an okay way,
Right,
Like, but it's just
right.
like a common word. And I don't know what's worse, that or like the angry grandfather version you got, you know,
Right.
because it's all. I don't know. There's so many flavors of racism. It's amazing.
My grandfather was angry, mean. I mean, there was
Mm-hmm.
really nothing nice to say about him. So, I mean, he was just always angry. So that's
Right.
all I remember about him.
my grandfather
yeah.
sold furniture up in Newark, and when I was a kid, he would take me up there all the time. And I think that's the first time I heard that word a lot, just in general, because it was such a. I mean, Newark was crazy back then. You know, I mean,
I got another
wild
story
place.
about my grandfather. So, you know, we live on the Jersey Shore. Him and my grandmother came down to visit one time. And when I was a kid, my best friend growing up was Shelton, who was, the only black kid at the time that lived in this town. And him and I were, inseparable. And he used to just walk into our house and stuff, when we were kids. He'd come in and we'd go swimming, whatever. And my grandfather was sitting on the couch, and he walked in. So now there's this old racist, and this little, 10-year-old black kid just walked into the house.
I feel for this poor kid already.
Well, he didn't say anything, but he went up to my mother and was like, what is, he doing? And my mother just, was like, if you do not like it, seriously, you pack your stuff and you leave. You are not welcome in this house if that's how you feel. My grandparents grabbed their stuff and they left. And they
No way.
They
Wow.
left. They fucking left. This is how miserable,
that is a
this man
different
was.
level right there.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty horrible.
He was a piece of shit. So, but now we are in the dead of the summer, boys. There's really not
Yeah,
much
this is
going
a time
on.
of year baseball gets all to itself because there's nothing going on with any of the sports but baseball.
That's
Nothing
it.
wrong.
And
baseball sucks.
yeah, I guess the All-Star game is tonight or last night. When is it? Tonight?
I think it's tonight.
Yankees and Mets fans don't care because their season's already shot.
Brutal.
I mean,
mean,
the Yankees
what do you think?
might
The Yankees
be
have a
able
chance?
to turn it around. They're
They could
10
maybe
out.
make the playoffs.
So
Yeah.
the Yankees are
Yeah,
what, 8
I think
out
they're
or
tied
9?
for the last wild card right now. So
Oh, okay. There you
Yeah,
The
go.
Mets are like 18.5 out.
The Mets are
Yeah,
comically
but
bad again.
7.5 out of wild card. I mean, they had a big stretch of 6 wins, and they moved up 3 places. So from 10.5 to 6.5. I mean, it can happen to tie for wild card, but there's 6 teams to jump. That's the hard part.
Didn't
So
Atlanta
I'm not
just
holding my
do it?
breath. They went on a little bit of a streak, and everyone was anointing the Mets are back. I'm like, don't even talk to me until they get to 500. Right on the Mets are back.
Didn't the
Yeah,
Braves
Boston
just have a
Scott,
big winning streak? The Braves.
Yeah,
just
they're
pulled
always
off,
they're in
7,
a
8
different
row.
stratosphere. It's
Yeah.
just more Mets mess.
They
They just keep buying 40-year-old pitchers for $45 million a year because that's a recipe for success. I mean,
It's the
come on.
worst when you see your team repeat the same mistake
Right.
over and over.
It's horrendous. Yeah.
Well, what I want to do today is we're going to do the buy and sell of the Metro Division. Okay.
All right.
So we'll go over some teams all the teams in the Metro, starting last place and moving up to the team that ended up winning it, which was Carolina. Go over their records and kind of players that they got this year, whether it be free agency, some players that they left, guys that they re-signed, and then basically you tell us are you buying or selling. So we're going to start with Columbus. So are you going to think Columbus is going to end up 8th in this conference to get this division again? Do you think they're going to make a little bit of moves forward? But we'll start with them. So Columbus Blue Jackets last year, they ended up 25, 48, and 9. They had 59 points, and that was good for 8th place in the Metropolitan, dead last. They drafted Adam Fantilli, got him to an entry-level contract. He went 3rd overall. He's a big center. I think he's really going to help this team down the road. Ivan Provorov they got through a trade, and then Damon Severson, who they got for a trade. They lost Michael Hutchinson, who was a UFA, John Gillies, Juno Loto, Lane Peterson. I don't know half these guys. Who the fuck played on
Lane
Columbus last year? Lane Meyer. Yeah, so that's basically where they're at. Their salary cap as of July 8th was $79,545,000. They have about $4 million in cap space. And that
And you said a
is
coaching
your-
change, right?
That's
They gotta-
awful
that's-
for an
I
8th
think
place
that
team.
Babcock's in there now.
Mike Babcock, who's been a successful coach, marred with a really bad reputation, who was just fired from Toronto, and he just got out of his contract on July 1st. He's there now. I do think that they got better this year, so I mean, I'll go first on this one. I'm buying Columbus. I don't think they're going to end up 8th in the Metro. I don't know if they're going to get too much better than 7th, but I do think
Yeah.
the team that is 7th that we're going to do next is.
That's what I was going to
end
ask
up
you. Who
dead
who
last.
was 7th?
It was the Flyers, and we'll talk about
Yeah,
them
that's
next.
okay. Gotcha.
But me, so I'm going to buy the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think Mike Babcock, I think Fantilli, I think Goudreau, and some health this year, they're going to be better. So I'm buying the Columbus Blue Jackets. I don't think they're near making the playoffs a couple of years off, but they will be better this year. Tony, what do you think?
think they will be better. I don't think they're going to be that much better, but they will be a little bit. I think that team has a deep prospect, pool. They really do. You got Patrick Lanier. He had 1 point a game for the last 2 years for them. He basically averages. I mean, I think the Flyers. I know we're going to go to them probably next, but I think that they're going to be at the bottom. So I'm going to say, they'll be a little bit better at 7th.
Okay. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I think you kind of gave it away right there, Chris, because nobody's expecting them to light the division on fire by any means, but we might have a new king of the basement come next year.
All right, to Bobby.
Yep, I'm buying. Even without some of the moves, I mean, they were so statistically bad, you got to figure they would at least pop up a few more wins. I can almost literally see them flip-flopping with Philly's amount of wins that we're about to get into. But after that, I don't know, unless there's some miracle, I don't know that they can go any further.
Yeah, it's a really tough division. I mean, no doubt. And you're saying, so Columbus had 25 wins last year, and then the Philadelphia Flyers, which ended up in 7th place, had 31. They were 31, 38, and 13 for 75 points. They ended up getting new onto this team this year: Cal Peterson, Sean Walker, Helgi Grans, Garnet Hathaway, Mark Stahl. I didn't know Mark Stahl signed with them.
Yeah, they got Mark Stahl for...
Brian Poling, Rhett Gardner, let's see, and players out: Ivan Provorov, Kevin Hayes, let's see, Hayden Hodgson, Anthony D'Angelo, James Van Riemdijk, he went up to Boston. Brendan
What about the
Lemieux.
goaltender? Isn't he gone too?
No, they
yet.
still have Carter Hart.
Oh, wow.
They're not really sure what they're going to do with them.
I thought maybe he was on the market.
They were shopping them.
The front office changed a lot in Philly. Danielle Briere is named general manager to replace Chuck Fletcher. Keith Jones named team president. John Tortorella is still the head coach. They have about $5.5 million in cap space. It's like a $78 million salary cap right now, payroll rather. And Philadelphia just really does look like they are looking to just blow this thing up and get it down to bare bones and build it back up through draft and some timely trades and free agency and stuff. I am totally selling Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that they're doing this on purpose, but I just don't think they're that good of a team. And I don't particularly think that they have the coach that is going to be a coach that can... I think that this rebuild is going to go a lot longer than it should because of John Tortorella. It kind of remains to be seen if Briere...
So he's on board for sure, right?
Well,
for next
he's there
year.
now, yeah. Tortorella's there now. And, I mean, Briere and Jones, I'm not sold 100% that they know what the hell they're doing. So until they actually do look like they know what they're doing, I am selling...
If it's anything like his commentary, I don't know about Jones.
I know. I am selling the Flyers. I think they're going to be dog shit. And I think they're going to be a walking mat for the rest of the league, and definitely for the rest of this division. What about you, Tone?
Selling the Flyers too. I think that they should basically break down the whole team. Just keep a couple of their core players, pick like 2 or 3. I mean, this team is, like you said, Tortorella. I think he's only going to be there for another year or two. I think D'Angelo's still with them, but I heard they're moving him to Carolina, supposedly. Mark Stahl they did add, but I think they're going to be at the bottom this year. I think we all expect that, and I think Dan brought that up maybe like 2 episodes ago or so. That the Flyers are probably going to be that team for the next few years. Even Columbus probably has like 3 years in that. I still think into that bottom.
Yeah, but I think right now Columbus looks, at least they look better going forward. I think that they have a lot more pieces in place than Philadelphia. I'm really interested to see what Philadelphia looks like.
They got
3
more
years
stuff
from now.
planted. It might not have grown yet, but it looks like the Flyers haven't planted shit yet.
Exactly. So you're selling, Dan?
Definitely, they were my pick to make the worst decline and be at the bottom of the division. I'll definitely stick with that. I think it's going to be a horrible year for Philadelphia. Anything less than that is a shocker to me. I really feel like they should be the bottom of the division. I think every other team looks much better.
And Bob?
Yeah, this is probably the easiest one as far as selling. Even if it wasn't for some of the questionable moves, or like you mentioned, the coach. I didn't even think of that. Like, he's definitely not the coach you want for a rebuilding team.
Right.
They're tearing it all down. Like you said, they're bare bones in it. So just realistically, not to pick on them, they should be doing even worse for sure.
You know, a lot of things when you're rebuilding, and the main thing of rebuilding, and like you just said, Tone, trying to find those one or two players that maybe you keep. But here's the thing: you don't know who those dudes are.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to look at this team and watch these guys make mistakes and figure out, okay, who can we work with, who can we can't work with, who's a lost cause and not. And I just don't think Tortorella's that guy. He's the type of dude that you make one little mistake, he's benching you.
He's
and
the
I'm
reason
sorry
Kevin
when you
Hayes
have
left.
a what.
He's the reason Kevin Hayes left. They couldn't stand each other.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard it on everything.
He does this everywhere he goes.
Yeah,
he makes
I know.
enemies.
Well,
He's got a few
yeah.
players running away from him all
Here's
the time.
the thing too, like this guy was notorious last year for like basically pulling the iPads out and making a fuss about it and all. And like these are what these kids do now. Like this is part of their routine. They make a play, they come back, they look at it. Like you don't have to love it, and maybe you don't even want it on your bench from time to time. But the way he was just completely unaccepting of that type of change, when this is what the kids are used to, it just doesn't. That's not a coach for a team that's going to be rebuilding fast.
He's fun to watch on press conferences, though, isn't he?
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm waiting for the meltdown. I love that he's near. He's in our division, and we might be able to get the meltdown against us. That'll be fucking great. Like the Devils go in and just rout them again. Like, what did we beat them 8-1 once this year?
I think it was 6-0 this year. We
yeah,
won
something like
at
that.
one point.
So I would love another one of those, and for it to be accompanying with the Tortorella meltdown. I would just love that.
Yeah, he's one of those coaches that I constantly scratch my head and I think, why? Why are you hiring him? Like, why are we? Like, I get the NHL recycling old coaches, and we do it all the time. And,
Mike Babcock is still a coach. How many
right,
years?
but at
is
least
this
he took 3 years off, and he
that's a
seems
good
to
point.
have a different mindset now. I listened to a bunch of interviews with Babcock, and he has said that the 3 years off were the best things that ever could have happened to me. I learned to put things in perspective. His son is coaching, I don't know if it's college or if it's like Ontario League or whatever, some developmental, and he was working with his son. And he said his son was the head coach. So Mike Babcock would say something to a kid, and his son would just stop him. Like, that's not how we do it, Dad. That's not how we do it. You don't speak to him that way.
Sounds like he's
And
been reborn. That's good.
Babcock's own words were, and I learned that that's not how, there are different ways now, new ways, better ways to get through to players, and maybe
hearing
his
that,
own
I'm
ways.
kind of pulling for him because that's
he
a nice
really-
story. I see like an old dog try to learn new tricks.
Exactly. And I think Columbus is a good spot for him. If he can get his shit figured out, and he really has changed, because he's a hell of a coach. It was his fucking attitude that
I just
turned
do use him
everybody
as an
up.
example of like he's been around for how long now, right? Like you said, we've got so many coaches have been coaching for way longer than playing careers. I mean, Lindy might be the number one. Lindy's been coaching forever now.
When we first started getting into hockey, in high school, when we really started watching this team, like Lindy Ruff was the coach of the Sabres.
It's amazing.
He was we're not young anymore. We're fucking old.
Yeah, he's
And
been
this
coaching
dude-
forever.
And he looked old then.
He did.
Like,
He did. He probably was only like 7-8 years out of his playing career when he
He
first
was
started coaching.
25.
He was late 30s or something. Yeah, it's 25.
He has probably aged the least in the last 50 years because
He
he
did
always
all his
looked-
aging in his 20s.
Exactly. So,
He's like that kid in high school who was bald by the senior year. You felt so bad for him.
Yeah.
you felt bad for me? Thanks. man. I appreciate that.
I remember Chris used to carry a picture, be like, "This is when I had hair."
I still have it. Hang on. I
I
showed
do
it to
that.
everybody. I'm like, this is me when I was handsome.
But Chris, with the Flyers, I don't know if you guys watched any of the highlights of that kid they drafted, man. I know, like, it's not, he probably won't play for another 2 seasons, maybe, but that Mitchkov, man, that kid is going to be good. They might have
I
really
also heard that he's a real.
This is
fucking-
who, the Columbus you're talking about?
No. Flyers
Oh,
took
Flyers?
Mitchkov was they
Yeah.
took him, I think, 6th or 7th, and he's playing in the KHL now. And everything that was
Oh,
talked
okay.
about,
We talked about this guy a little bit.
yes,
Yeah?
and
Yes.
before the draft, everything that was talked about was that this dude was up to the level of Connor Bedard. That he was, in the same breath is really what everybody was saying.
He's also
People
kind of
that-
high
better
maintenance.
numbers
People
than
wonder if he's going to
Ovi
play.
in some of those leagues. Better numbers than Ovi had in some of those leagues.
Oh, wow. Really?
But
It's impressive.
apparently he's a bit of a prima donna. He, is very difficult to work with. Apparently he didn't want to play in Washington.
like
He
Bitchkov.
said that he
I saw
wasn't going to. Yeah, he wasn't going to play there if they drafted him. I guess he didn't want to play with, being compared to Ovechkin all the time. I don't know. but Philly took a chance on him, and you know, who the hell knows what's going to happen with these Russian players? You know, it might come to a point where, you know, they're not allowed to come and play here. You know, you don't know it might turn around like, be like 1980s again. Yeah. So I just think it's a very, if the guy works out, he's going to be a phenom, but if he ever gets here and if he ever gives 100%, sounds to me like it's a, you know, Ilya Kovalchuk situation ready to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
It did sound like that. Like, what did he say? You have to meet me on a Tuesday for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And after the game, right when I'm coming off the ice or some shit.
Yes.
Yeah. You want to be paid in cash for any kind of meeting.
So, I mean, he might be a difficult pain in the ass.
You draft a player who you like, who plays for there, and, you know, next minute, they're getting forced to go to the war for, like, whatever, you know. I mean, it's just a big risk. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this number 6 team, this one is kind of tough. This is a staple of the Metropolitan Division for the last 10 years, and now last year was a bad year. It's the Washington Capitals. They ended up 6th. They went 35, 37, and 10 for 80 points. They picked up Joel Edmondson, Max Pacioretty, Andrew Cristall, Patrick Dubé, Ivan Miroshevich. Yeah, I'm not about to try and pronounce his name. A few other dudes, nobody of real major. Let's see, players out. They lost Connor Sheary, Craig Smith, Garrett Pilon, Matt Irwin, Carl Hagelin, Cody Clark, Zach Foucault, Mike Vecchione, and Gabriel Carlson. Re-signed a few players, nobody of significance really. Riley Sutter. They have $82 million plus. They have $888,000 in space left on their salary cap. You know, this is basically the same team that they had last year. They really didn't make too many moves. They didn't pick up anybody big. It's Washington. I mean, they got Ovi, and he's going for, right now, it's all about just getting players around Ovechkin so in 2 years he can break Gretzky's record. To me, that's all that they're really playing for. I just don't know
That's
if
what
they
they're selling to the fans right now.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, and I don't know if they got a whole lot better. So I'm really, I think Columbus is going to end up with a better record than Washington. I'm selling the Capitals. I could be wrong on that, but I'm selling the Caps. What about you, Tone?
Well, I'm going to buy with the Capitals. You know, it's a weird thing with them. They made no big offseason moves, like we were saying. They failed to move up in the draft, which I know they wanted to. That was a big thing with them. They're coming off injuries. Pacioretty coming off a big injury. Remember Carolina? That was like a big thing with him.
Yeah.
Backstrom's the same way. He's coming off the hip injury.
Wilson has been, he's coming off an injury.
I'm sure they're going to get him back, but that's a big thing with them. They want to get him locked up. But the thing with that team is you have Ovechkin, who's pretty sturdy. I think he missed like 8 games last year or something, but he's 37 years old, and he is the main thing on that. You know, you need him to work for everything else to work. It's just they haven't done much. Maybe they'll do something before the season comes, but they've been really quiet.
They did get Andreas Young. Oh, no, that was the next team I'm talking about. Pittsburgh. Sorry. But yeah, I mean, just
even
to
TJ
me,
Oshie, 36, right? I mean,
yeah, they got older. Really, that's it. So, what about you, Dan?
If I could stay pat, I probably would. I do think it's a maybe even money bet whether or not Columbus can, take their place and move up to 6th, because it's really such a close call. But I guess I'm more closer to buying than selling, just a lot of for those same reasons Tony mentioned. And I would say that I don't know. I think Columbus is such a question mark. I don't think they're gonna meteoric rise. And I think it's really tough to count out point totals on a Ovechkin team that hasn't changed that much. And that's the way I look at it. I can't see them climbing. That's for sure.
Right.
To me, I think they're going to stay pat, and there's a small chance they could, a lesser chance that they could lose a spot, but not by much. It's pretty close between whether or not they're going to give away their spot to Columbus. So they could fall to 7th, be just ahead of the Flyers, but I'm gonna go staying pat.
That makes sense. What about you, Bobby?
Yeah, these next two are the ones that gave me pause right from the start. But when I look at Washington, I I look at their record, and they're still good enough to at least be NHL 500, which just gives them 2 more wins. And for that reason, I'm buying because I think they can get there, and they're going to pretty much stay right where they are, 16.
So I'm the only one who's selling on Washington.
I do like Kemper too. I have to admit, I like their goalie.
Yeah, I mean, I like Kemper. He's not bad. This team really confuses me.
Yes.
Pittsburgh. I honestly can say before we even go over this, I don't know what to expect from them. They made a lot of moves. They ended up, so last year was 40, 31, and 11, 91 points. They were basically, I think, 2 points or 3 points out of a playoff spot. We talked about it before. If they would have won those 2 games the last week of the season against Columbus and Chicago, they would have been in, and Florida would have been home. They didn't get it done. They got Riley Smith from Vegas. They got Ryan Graves. Sorry, Bob. Let's see, Lars Eller came over. Yanni Kupanen came over. Will Butcher, another Devil. Ryan Shea, Andreas Janssen, another Devil. Holy shit, there's quite a few old Devils on this team.
Ty Smith's on that team too, isn't he?
Yeah,
I think he only played
yeah.
a few games last year, but
Yeah, he was
reason
down
they're
with Wilkes-Barre Scranton a lot. Brian Dumoulin is gone. Jason Zucker's gone. Josh Archibald, Drake Cagliani. Let's see, Ryan Poling, Dmitry Kulikov, Nick Bonino. All these guys are gone. Didn't Nick Bonino go to the Rangers, right?
Yes.
Yeah. They re-signed Tristan Jarry. And let's see, Alex Nylander, Valtteri Puustinen, and let's see, they are at $86 million. They are $3 million over the cap. 86.5 is what they have. So did they got a new front office? You know, Hextall and those guys are out. I think Dubas is in. They're still running with the same coaching staff, I believe. They choked a ton at the end of the year last year. I think they did get better, but kind of like with you guys with Washington, I don't know if they can really. Maybe I'm going to say that I'm going to buy them because I do think they can at least get to 4th in this division with the moves that they made. Crosby, Letang, Getzlov, and Malkin. I think they're good enough. Their goaltending is a little suspect. I'm going to buy Pittsburgh. I think they're going to be a bubble team, and I have a feeling they might be able to take one of those wild card spots. What about you, Tone?
I'm going to buy. I think they're going to be better. I think it's really interesting with them because I thought that was a team that was going to basically sell the ship for the next few years. And they wound up picking up players. You know, it was just like all of a sudden they started adding guys because they weren't ready to lose. I don't think yet. I mean, I think with Crosby,
you can't though.
Like Crosby,
that's the thing, isn't it? Like that's the thing. You can't do a rebuild when you have Sidney Crosby on your team. Like Washington can't go into a full rebuild with Ovechkin. You just can't do it with those players.
And that's the thing is, and I thought they were kind of going to, but with those, you know, I think they're going to be better than last year, and they might still do moves. I mean, a lot of Devils though, right? I mean, it really is funny. There's a lot of dudes on that team, and I was glad to see Johansson get to come in because he just disappeared. 2 years ago when we started seeing the issues in his game. That was just the end.
Isn't it Johansson now? Right? Wasn't he the one who wanted to be pronounced Johansson? But then it was Johansson.
No,
I don't even know.
Janssen, and then they started calling him Johnson on one of the games that we were watching. And then the next night, I believe it was like Spalding was like Johnson or Janssen, and then they asked Andreas, and he was basically like, "I don't care, you call me whatever you want." But when he was on with the Devils, it was always Andreas Janssen. And then they started calling him Johnson. So I don't know what the fuck his name is.
Yeah, and I do like the Riley Smith, taking over for Zucker. I think that's a nice move. I think that he's going to.
It is a nice move. I kind of feel bad for Riley Smith. Thanks for being here when we won the cup. See you later. And they just boot him away. But it's a good move. So I'm really weird about Pittsburgh. I don't know what to expect. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I get you. I think the last two, and Bob kind of alluded to, they're tough. Because I expect them to stay pat. I don't want to buy or sell. And this is one of those cases. I think that they're going to stay where they are, and I don't think they're going to climb. Could they climb more than fall? Yeah, probably. So in that case, I will buy, but it's a very hesitant buy I'm not buying with good money. I'm buying with change I find in the couch.
Couch cushion change.
Couch cushion change. That's it.
About you,
That's the only
Bob?
kind of pay I'm going to do.
This is
sense.
funny because what Dan mentioned about if he could not buy or sell coming back to the Capitals. That's how I envision Penguins. I don't like them this year that much. I'm actually going to sell, but by the slimmest of margins. Like, I'm just talking maybe a win or a point or two. Like, I think they're that team in the mushy middle that some of these other teams are going to be picking off just a few wins. That's one of the teams they're going to take it from. Nothing crazy. Like, they're still going to be decent, but that's where one or two of these wins are going to come from some of these other teams.
The Metro is pretty established, especially up top, I think. I think like 1 through 3, 1
Definitely.
through 4 is pretty
That's-
much, at least 1 through 3 is pretty established. Where you
It's
go
a solid
to the Atlantic,
division.
Yeah, you go to the Atlantic Division, that's where you got those young teams that are going to really start pushing. So you got the Detroit, the Ottawa, the Buffalo. Yeah, I mean, if they get better, the teams that are going to be the ones that they're feasting on are going to be the Pittsburghs, the Washingtons. And so, yeah, I see what you're saying. I just think, Crosby, Malkin, they know what they're doing. They're well coached. I see them pretty much around the same, but I do think there'll be a bubble team come the end. Whether or not they get in remains to be seen. This is where it gets a little bit tougher. So, 4th place, New York Islanders, 42, 31-9 for 93 points. They picked up Julien Gauthier, Brian Pinho. I don't know half these guys. They lost Josh Bailey, Parker Wotherspoon, Richard Panik, Corey Schneider, Zach Parise, still. So these guys aren't coming back. A lot of these dudes. They re-signed Sorokin, Varlamov, Engvall, Mayfield, Fasching. They still have to sign Oliver Wahlstrom and Jacob Skarek. They have $83 million just over in caps in their cap right now, $387,000 in cap space. So they're pretty much looking done. When you can have a goalie like Sorokin, now he's got the long-term contract. I just think they're definitely going to be good. I just don't know if they're going to be in the race again, bubble team. I can kind of see them flipping around with Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh maybe taking that spot from them. On that note, just the age in a division that's just fast and young, I just think the Islanders are the old guys there that are still trying to hang on. They have Barzell, they have Horvat, but and Sorokin, I'm selling. I think that they're not going to make the playoffs this year. I'm selling the Islanders. What about you, Tone?
I'm selling too. I think they really wanted to get that DeBrincat today. He signed with Detroit for 4 years. They really wanted him. That was on their radar. They haven't done many offseason moves at all this year, this offseason. They have a lot of question marks. Guys like Noah Dobson, William Defoe. They just have a lot of things they're not sure about.
Whoa, William Defoe, I love.
And Chris brought up Brazel. You don't even know if he's going to play a full season. So it's interesting with them. I think they are not going to be as good as last year. I think they actually will be a little worse. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs or not, but because they made it They made it in the last week of the season, right? The last 2 games they made it in, if I remember correctly. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting what Lou does over there now.
Yeah, they got the second to last wild card spot.
And Parise might retire, right? That's the thing.
Florida took it. Lou probably should retire. I do think.
Parise though, but Parise may retire. They're saying that's the question mark with that dude. I think.
I'm sure somebody will pay him a few bucks, $1 million to come and play for him. Be a bottom 6 guy. He can still score. He's not completely done. So, what about you, Dan? Islanders.
That's a tough one. I feel like as the aging teams that are in our division, they have more of a complete team than, say, Washington or even Pittsburgh. So that makes them dangerous. And I feel like they are dangerous, but, the wheels are coming off. And I kind of put them in a very similar place I put Tampa. The experience matters, but, are they going to be growing as a team? No, absolutely not. I think they're on the decline. For that reason, I have to kind of sell. But it's weird because if you do the math on this, the buying and selling that I've done, I feel like I haven't really placed these guys where I think they're going to place. So I don't know if you guys did that. You start looking at like who your pluses and minuses, where it doesn't really add up. Like there's some X factors out there, so we'll see what happens. But I don't see them improving much in this division, and so for that, I think it's more likely they're gonna decline. So
They're an old team.
Yeah.
Again, real tough with Sorokin to take anything away from the team, but I feel like this is a team the NHL has passed by, and I'm going to sell on them and probably see. This is the interesting thing. I'm going to sell on them as I did with Pittsburgh, but I could still see it where the Islanders are more like a 3-4 point drop off, where Pittsburgh's only like 1 or so, and Pittsburgh still leapfrogs them. So right around that 90-point mark for the bubble. But yeah, I'll sell on the Islanders. They didn't impress me at the end.
Okay.
Joe Fano's not going to be happy.
Poor Joe Fano. What do you mean?
My Islanders are going to win the fucking Stanley Cup, you fucking pieces of shit.
You out of your minds?
New York Rangers, they're coming in, number 3. New York Rangers went 47-22-13 for 107 points. Lost the first round to the New Jersey Devils. But they made a little bit of noise. They got an old man Blake Wheeler in for like $800,000. Eric Gustafson, Nick Bonino, Jonathan Quick. Who else? Tyler Pitlick, Riley Nash, Connor McKay. They lost Mikko Mikkola, William Lockwood, Timothy Gettinger, Ryan Carpenter. Wyatt, I don't know half of these guys. Patrick Kane, Vladimir Tarasenko, Yaroslav Halak, Tyler Mott. And they still have to sign Alexis Lafreniere, Keandre Miller.
They signed Keandre
those
Miller
are the
today.
2 main guys that they have to sign. They got a new coach in Peter Laviolette. They have salary cap of $77 million. They still have a little over $6 million in space, so they do have room to make a couple of moves. Again, another team I look at, I see them getting older.
I see old people.
I mean, Blake Wheeler, even Panarin, and Kreider, like these guys aren't young anymore, and I just see. But again, Shesterkin, I think that they're going to end up right where they are this year. I think they will be 3rd, and I think so. I mean, am I buying? I guess I'm buying the Rangers because I don't think they're going to do any worse than 107 points. I do think they're going to be right there at the end. They're a good team. I just don't know how built they are when it comes to the top 2 in the Metropolitan Division. I just don't know if they can really compete against the Carolinas and New Jerseys. So I'm buying the Rangers. I do think they're going to end up right where they are. So I'm okay with that. What about you, Tone?
I'm buying. And I do think the Blake Wheeler deal wasn't that bad for what they paid for him.
It's a great deal.
Yeah, I mean, they got 1 year on him only. They put up 16 goals last year. I think the Rangers are a weird team. If you think about them, they only had 2 guys in the playoffs that scored more than 1 goal. I mean, that's crazy. It was Kreider and Tarasenko, and I mean, they're just an older team.
Tarasenko's not there anymore.
Yeah, I mean, they added Riley Nash. I know that, and they did re-sign Keandre Miller today.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Yeah, for 2 years. I'm buying though. I mean, because they're just the Rangers. I think, like you said, I actually totally agree that they will finish 3rd, where that's pretty much they're going to be.
The Rangers are one of these teams. I'm not ready to kind of go there yet, but I could actually see them having a ridiculous fall from grace. I mean, it wouldn't totally shock me, is what I'm saying, if they just have a shit year. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Peter Laviolette will be able to manage that team, and I think next year, they'll make the playoffs, and who knows what'll happen. I'm not sure. Maybe we'll be facing them again. But I just don't think they're not going to win the Stanley Cup. I don't see it, and I just think they're getting older and slower again in a division that is getting faster and younger. So, how about you, Bob?
Bonino today too, didn't they?
Dan.
Yeah. Oh, Dan, it's your turn. The
I would say
Rangers.
Peter Laviolette is definitely the best move they made in the offseason. I think he's a good coach. I think he's a good coach for this team at this time. That said, I am selling on the Rangers. I feel like if anybody is able to be jumped over, it's them. And it would take a multi-team push. I think somebody's going to bubble over there because I'm not super hot on many of the teams below them. Maybe the most movement might come out of Columbus. Will they pass up the Rangers? Hard to see. No. So you're not wrong when you say that they might just end up third again. Yeah, they might. You're absolutely right. But I think it's going to be, if they manage third in the Metro, it's going to be one of those things where they actually have a worse performance and a worse overall team going to playoffs. I mean, they have cap space, so things could change. But overall, I feel like they have peaked. We saw their peak last year. They were a pretty strong team going into the playoffs, and I don't think they're coming back from where they left off in the playoffs. So, I'm selling overall. But, a lot of these things are close calls. I was trying to check my, kind of hate for the Rangers and just really look at them objectively. The best thing I see that they have done is Laviolette, and I don't know if that's going to be enough to really save this team this year. If they hold on to him and let him actually coach, which is tough to do in New York, I think it would be a long-term investment, and they could bounce back instead of doing a whole rebuild. But I just feel like they're going to go through some pains next year, and I think it's a gut check year for some of their guys who went away come playoff time, like Zibanejad and others, and so
Aaron,
yeah. So we'll see. But overall, I'm going to sell.
Okay, Bobby.
Chris, I agree with you that third is where they're probably going to be. I don't see them moving up or down from that. And I'm also to the point of this exercise where I know how many times I've sold, and I'm starting to think, I got to have a buy in there. Yeah. But just objectively looking at the 107 points they got last year, I feel like for me, selling is anything under that. I think they're going to be under that. If I recall, they had to go on a ridiculous long-term run to pull that season around last year. They started off pretty piss poor, so that's credit to them. And I know we had a 13-game winning streak, which certainly had a hand in all of our points. I get that. But I don't think either one of those two things are going to happen for either one of these two teams this year. So I think the Rangers are just going to be a little more, win 2 out of 3, lose, that kind of thing. And I just see them dropping down a point or two, but maintaining their place in the Metro.
Yeah, I think that's good. I just think the top two teams that we're going to get into now, I just think they are head and shoulders above everyone else in this division. I really believe that. Number 2 is our Devils, 52, 22, and 8, 112 points. Second place in the Metro. We got Tyler Toffoli, Colin Miller, Shane Bowers, Tyler Brennan. A couple of these guys are all down below in Utica. We lost Damon Severson, Igor Sharangovich, Mackenzie Blackwood, Riley Walsh, Miles Wood, Ryan Graves, Mason Geertsen, Jesper Boquist, Tomas Tatar, Jonathan Bernier. Most people would look at all the guys that the Devils lost and be like, holy shit, they lost Severson, Sharangovich, Blackwood, Wood, Graves, and be head on fire. These guys are going to be so much better this year. I think they're going to be a lot better. And we re-signed Bratt, Meyer, Holla, McLeod, Bastion. Still have to get Ball done unless that was done today. Tony, I'm looking at you. Okay. Salary cap is 77.89. We have like a little over $5 million in space. We talk about the Devils more than any other team. I just think Luke Hughes being in this lineup, Tyler Toffoli being in this lineup, Timo Meyer being here long term, I think this is going to be a really, really tough team to beat. I am totally fucking buying the Devils, and I think anybody that knows anything about hockey would be buying these guys. I just think that last year was their little bit of their breakout year. Like, hey guys, we've arrived. Now it's time to show the rest of the league just how good we are and how good we can be. For many years, I'm buying the Devils. I think they're going to win the Metro, and I think they're going to have a very, very good season and a very good playoff run next year. Tone?
I agree. I think with them is, I wonder if they're going to get as many points as they had last year, because I don't know if they're going to get as many points, but I think they're going to finish first. I don't know. I'm excited. How could you not be excited about this team? It just seems like with this. I like Toffoli a lot. I think that's a great addition. I think they can win it. They could definitely win this year.
Daniel.
Well, this is interesting because I feel like if things would have went differently in Carolina, I think it's clearly the Devils for the division, because the Devils did get better. They were emerging as it is. They're only going to get better. The division is totally within their grasp, even still, and so is the conference, and so is the league, and so are the playoffs. I mean, they have such a bright, ascending star in the NHL. I don't think there's another team that is ready to explode now and in the next couple of years. Not like wait for a few more years and then we'll see what happens. I think this is the year you're going to see them even take a bigger step forward. They've made good moves. They've they haven't gotten worse. They've gotten better, and they've got so many young players who are gelling now together. Is it possible injuries and other things could totally sidetrack that? Absolutely. There's always a chance, but when you look around at the league, like the Devils just have the biggest upside right now. And I think this is the year they're going to realize even more of that upside. I think it's insane not to, put them as the 1 or 2. And it's only because of the next team, making some great moves too, that you even hesitate to give them the whole division. So definitely buying on the Devils. If you say buy, does it mean necessarily that they have to move up? They can't get second place again? No, not in my mind. I think it's very possible that they could have a better team together, get 1 or 2 points in either direction, more or less, still end up in second place, and still you would still say this is a better team going into playoffs than last year. So in that sense, I am totally buying.
And do you guys think that it's a benefit having nobody playing for contracts right now? Like we're kind of like we're going into next season kind of like without this stress on us. So do you guys think that's a plus or a minus going in?
I mean,
there are a plus.
There are 2 guys that are playing for contracts, and that's Schmidt and Vanacek. So those are your 2 biggest question marks going into
core's
this
locked up, is I guess
season.
what I'm saying. Like that's a
offense, the defense. I totally get that. It's a huge thing, and some players actually put on a show their contract year, so it's hard to say it's only going to work for us.
Right. I mean, we do have McLeod to a 1-year deal, so if he wants to be locked up and paid next year, he's going to have to perform a little bit better than he did, which is really, you can't ask for anything more from McLeod at the playoff time. I mean, maybe some more offensive production during the regular season, but playoffs he was
keeps
fantastic.
Those face-offs up, and
look,
hard to say you don't want them.
Exactly. Goaltending is the question mark with the Devils, and we know that. But we also know that Vanacek had a great year. We know that Schmid is an emerging goaltender, emerging number 1 in this league. I don't think they're going to make a move. And like we said, if it's for anybody, it's going to be for... If they're going to make a move, it's going to be for Hellebuyck. They're not going to make a move for anybody else. So if you did go out and get Hellebuyck, well, that just makes this team that much better. So all around, I just don't know how this team can get any worse come October. They're going to be fantastic. How about you, Bob?
I love that I even have to consider this in this game, because I just feel like I need to be pinched a little bit, because I'm trying to do an over-under on a team that got 112 points. And I think I said a couple shows ago that they can win the division and be a better team, and maybe as well still not get as many points. I don't think the points are everything. They can certainly be a better team this year and not reach 112 points. A lot went right for 112. Again, the 13-game winning streak's only one of it. So many other things, like at least 5 game-saving goals by Ryan Graves, if I was counting.
Beating every team in Canada.
Yeah, exactly. Beating every team in Canada. And that was just a heck of a powerful year. But at the same time, how do you not see an upside in this team? How do you legitimately sit here and not say, with the moves they made, that they're not better, with the depths of the forwards, with the amount of... I was projecting goals when we played the last game, just because that's how I process things, and that all points to more. So we have a couple question marks in goal, or in defense, a little, maybe. I mean, I think we know what we got in Hughes. Maybe we don't know so much about Nemec's defense. Maybe he doesn't even play. I'm not sure. And we do have a couple of new faces, so there might be a little bit of growing pains, just game by game, but nothing serious. So as much as I can't believe I get to say this, I have to buy on them and think that they're going to improve on 112 points.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you're 100% right about maybe not getting the point total, still winning the division, still be a better team. Yeah, there are going to be a lot of other teams, especially in the Atlantic, that are going to pull points off of everybody. But in the end, if Devils end up with 106, 108 points, that might be enough for the Metro. So I definitely agree with you. Now Carolina is the first place. They won the Metro last year by 1 fucking point, 113 points. They went 52, 21, and 9. They picked up Michael Bunting, Dmitry Orlov. Those are the two big ones. They got Tony D'Angelo in. They got a few other guys in. A lot of guys in entry-level contracts.
Coaching stays the same.
Coaching stays the same. They
Which
did
was
lose
a good thing.
Shane Gossafair. They lost Massimo Rizzo. Let's see, who else is gone on this team? Nobody of major significance, I don't think. They still need to sign Jordan Stahl, Jesper Fost, Antti Ranta. Or they re-signed them, They re-signed Stahl, Fost, Ranta, Anderson. And
Anderson
they
too, huh? I know there was talk around Anderson. He's definitely coming back.
They signed them both. And they are $80 million into their cap. They have 3.3 available in cap space. And, look, it's going to be a two-team race, I think, in the Metro. And I just think that the Devils are a better team right now than Carolina. And I think they will win the division. There's really not much to say that against Carolina. They're a fucking great team. And Michael Bunting is going to make them better. They actually have some dudes that can score goals now. They got Orlov along with Burke in the back. I mean, they really are set up. Their question marks are goaltending as well. Can Ranta and Anderson be the guys? But they're going to be really, really freaking good. And like I said, now they can actually score goals. But you see, when I look at the teams like the 1-2, like you look at the Devils and look at the Carolina, I believe that any problem, any kind of deficiency the Devils might have, I think the Devils are going to be able to outscore all of their problems. I'm not sure that Carolina is going to be able to outscore all their problems. So for that, I guess I would have to sell on Carolina just because I think the Devils are the better team in the Metro. I don't do that with much confidence because I think it's going to be 4 or 5 point swing either way that's going to win that division. They're going to be right there. But you know what? Let Carolina deal with the Rangers in round 1, and we'll take the Metro and deal with one of those upcoming teams. So I like Carolina. I don't like them as much as I like the Devils, and putting my homer hat on there. But that's how I feel. What about you, Tone?
I'm selling. I think, with that team, first of all, Orlov and Burns together is going to be kind of interesting to watch. And I wouldn't be surprised if they still go get a goal scorer. I mean, they want another goal scorer. I know that on that team. I don't mind the goaltending either. Actually, I like the Anderson-Ranta combo. I think that's a decent combo. They signed, what's his name, Brendan Lemieux today. They picked up him. So, I mean, I think I picked the Devils, so I'm going to have to sell it. But I'm thinking they're still going to be really tough. You mentioned that Orlov. I mean, that's a great addition. So, yeah, it's going to be...
Freddie Anderson's issue has been staying healthy, right? I mean, he's a good goalie, but he just can't stay healthy. So, I mean, if they can get Ranta and Anderson to stay healthy for 82 games, then they got a shot there. But I agree with what you're saying. What about you, Dan?
Well, I think when you look at this, the very top, you're buying on the Devils like I am. That you would be excused for thinking that means you have to sell on the Hurricanes because what's going to give, but I think there's a world in which the Hurricanes are a better team and so are the Devils, and I think this is it. So I'm buying for the Hurricanes mostly because, and this is like a totally separate question, but of all the coaches coaching right now, Brendan Moore is probably the one I would not mind replacing Lindy right now. I mean,
I have two.
He's he's at least one of the two. Who would you?
I would take Brendan Moore and John Cooper from Tampa. Those are the two that I would take.
I can see that. See that. And I just think he's really a great coach. I thought he did a great job with that team last year because you mentioned they were a little, snake bit when it came to scoring, and I think that team still has a great defensive core. They're going to get a little better on scoring. They might get even more better because they have room by the time trade comes around. And I think their goaltending is good enough to not have that question mark pull down a rating for me. So I'm buying on them. But, it sounds a little crazy. I just think it's the nature of this game. I still think there's a world in which I'm buying on them, and the Devils take the spot over, the Hurricanes. And they meet in the playoffs, and the Devils beat them in the playoffs. That's my vision here for this. But I think they're going to be a super strong number 2. and for that reason, I'm buying.
Okay, so before we get to Bob, I just want to ask you. So you said a strong number 2. You do think the Devils are going to win the Metro?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the closest of margins, and this is talk about crystal ball gazing at this point.
Sure.
I mean, you really don't know what the hell you're talking about from this early in the season, no matter how informed you think you are. I don't care who you are. But right now, the facts in front of me, I have to pick the Devils over the Hurricanes. I think if we play that series over today with the two teams, the Devils win that series. It was not that crazy of a beating that the Devils took. They never really got off the mat until that one game, and then they kind of fell apart again. I think this team is a much better team than the Hurricanes were, and I think the Hurricanes are going to be better, but not as much better as the Devils are going to be. So I give them it's a very close series. If they replayed the series again today, now, the Devils win in 6 or 7.
I think the frustrating thing about that series for Devil fans was that it Devils, and I don't want to take anything away from Carolina, but the Devils did beat themselves in that. They did, they for whatever
never played
reason,
their game.
It was emotionally spent from the Rangers series. Whatever it was, there were a lot of things going against them in that series, and I just don't see that happening again. But to your point, Rob Brind'Amour is an amazing coach, and there's probably not a coach in the league that has his team like hang on every word, and just we talk about the word culture a lot, like the culture that Rod Brind'Amour brought to the Hurricanes, whether he was playing to coaching, he is the Carolina Hurricanes. So
he's got an intensity not many coaches have.
He's
that kind of intensity, without going overboard and being, a wild man like let's say Tortorella. He's got intensity too, but I mean he's all over the place. Brind'Amour knows what he's doing, and yet he has that intensity that a lot of coaches, even successful ones, don't necessarily have.
Yeah. What about you, Bobby? Carolina.
Well, Dan, you're not crazy. That feeling is being absolutely correct. There is a world where they're both better. I'm buying on Carolina for points as well. This thing's going to go neck and neck. I think we're going to see kind of an epic showdown at the top. I'm talking like a 120 to 119 point scenario. That gives them each a few more wins. I would not be surprised if Carolina comes on top. Originally, that's where I want to go, but that's because, again, I'm trying not to be the Devil fan who can have this much belief. But given everything else I've said today and how we project, I see us coming out on top, but I'm still buying on Carolina to improve.
All right, well, that's interesting. Let me ask you this, because you said 119, 120. Now, if one of those teams, or they're both battling it out, and do you think the President's Trophy winner comes down to the Metro Division? Do you think that somebody, the Devils or the Hurricanes, are going to win the President's Trophy this year?
I started to look at the standings from last year just to see where some of the other top teams were realistically, and I mean outside of what we all think is going to at least be a slide for Boston. I mean they're not going to get that point total, so that's a lot of points up for grabs there. Vegas was still extremely strong. Toronto's and all that. But, yeah, I think it's very possible that you're looking at a 1-2 of Carolina and New Jersey for the President's Trophy.
Wow. Okay. I like it. So, is there anything else this evening that you gentlemen would like to discuss before we wrap it up and we get ready for maybe what might be our Devils draft next show? I don't know if we're going to do it the next show or one after. Tony, you do have the Devil for the next show, just so give you a heads up.
I was going to ask you, would you think Tarasenko goes to Ottawa now?
I think Tarasenko is going to end up in Ottawa. I think they were waiting for him to move to Brinkett, so they have the money. I know that things went sideways with his deal with Carolina, which I don't know if there's a team that I think Tarasenko fits in better than the Hurricanes. I really do. I know that they really wanted him, and then I don't know what happened. I know that he just ended up firing his agent. This is his third agent in 3 years. So something's going on with Tarasenko and his representation, whether they're telling him things that aren't necessarily true or he's expecting things differently and he's not getting it because the reality of the situations is, you're not going to get 5 years at $4 million right now. You got to wait for that. Maybe there was a problem with that, but it seemed really weird because as soon as they reported, because everybody was reporting that he was ready to sign with Carolina, I thought that was the forward that they need. If they get Tarasenko, they are going to be an extremely good team and really, really hard to beat. But no, I think he does go to Ottawa, and I think that makes Ottawa a lot better too.
You think he's represented by the Russian mob, and that's the whole problem?
Maybe. Maybe it is. It's all mobbed up.
Guys, yeah, he's all mobbed up, and they're running all kinds of betting on him, and they don't want to see him where he wants to go.
So, I mean, I know he wants to go to Ottawa. It did seem like that's what Ottawa was waiting for before they make a move, was to get rid of DeBrincat, who I don't like. I do not like Alex DeBrincat. Let him go to Detroit. I don't know what the hell they're doing over there.
I would like to know
right
how
now
many.
in
This
Detroit.
is probably the most. I would like to know if this year was the most one-year contracts, because with the way that salary cap is right now,
Everybody's holding their breath, right? It's like holding your breath for the new salary cap.
Well, yeah, and COVID screwed everything up. Like, the salary cap was supposed to go up, and then when you have basically a half a year where you're playing to empty buildings, or a whole year really playing to empty buildings,
They can justify
and stuff. They can't justify
new expenses. Yeah,
exactly.
But meanwhile, like for the last 2 years, they've been making like craziest increases for everything involved with sales. The tickets, they've gone up, but like everything else associated with it, the parking, the beer, like everything's crazy. The inflation. All over the world, but definitely in hockey too. Like the jerseys, I was in Dick's the other day. Careful with that. And
Yeah, you were.
it sure
it was
was
in you.
deep in the store. And I was looking at these jerseys, like they're insane money. The
like,
jerseys
some of
were
them are
always
like
expensive.
$250.
Yes, like
Yeah.
we're approaching $300 for a Hughes jersey. It's like, no, thanks, dude.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean,
unless he just won a playoff series wearing that jersey, I'm not about to spend $300 on it.
Yeah, and my larger point is, I think collectively the NHL might have the finances to move the cap a little bit, already.
They're
It's been
talking
a while.
something with the players' escrow and whatever. I don't understand it all, but that was the
Yeah.
reasoning why they can only raise it $1 million this year, and looking, like they said, between the next 3 to 5 years, anywhere from like $7 to $9 million more, which is a big increase. And then you'll start seeing guys signing. I think even after this coming season, you'll start seeing guys signing for the longer terms and stuff. But people just didn't have money, so guys were just taking whatever they can so they could have a fucking job.
Well, you definitely don't want to blow it up too fast, because then you get the whole situation where the only teams that are going to improve are the teams with lots of cash.
Yeah.
But I think we're at a point where even the bottom of the basement teams, they have the money to make a better team. It's not the money issue. It's the timing. It's the drafting. It's the whole personnel issue.
Well, they
It's
also have to
crazy,
get
though.
to.
They have
Yeah,
the
it's
highest paid players this coming season is so McKinnon's going to get 16.5 this upcoming
Yeah.
season.
Wow.
Pasternak
McKinnon's-
13. Seth
Was
Jones
that 13?
Pasternak.
Seth Jones 12. Hamilton, obviously our guy, at 12.5. And Ovechkin at 12.5. Karpitsov 12.5. And Meyer 12 mil. So some guys getting paid this year coming up.
Yeah, it's
But you got a handful of them. Like it's not gone up for the median player over this, because it couldn't have, because of the cap.
Right.
The cap has been stuck.
Barkov, and then Patrick Hornquist retired.
Yeah, some of those seem a little higher just because of the way the contracts are formatted. I mean, Hamilton's $9 million a year on average.
AAV's at
It's-
9.
yeah, Myers is the weirdest contract, man, with all those.
Top, front head.
Yeah, that's,
Is that right?
Yeah.
What's so
Yeah,
crazy
he
about it?
gets-
It's all.
It's just a lot of like 12s and stuff like that when
Yeah,
he's
the
averaging
first couple of
8.8.
years
I
are
got you.
big, and then it goes down. But when it gets closer to the 8th year,
It's like-
it did
it's
it
like
with
a
Brad.
four-
Then it like
Cap
pops
hit.
back up again and then back down. It's
Oh,
you know.
okay.
Yeah, I don't know how these cap guys do it all. I mean, it's
It's
fucking
kind of weird,
confusing
that
to me.
you need to be an accountant to really understand this level of hockey. You have to have
Yeah.
some accounting background, and
And
I think the average
foresight,
fans
that-
their
that
eyes
just-
gloss over.
It adds to the GM's job, right? To look 2, 3, 4, 5 years out and try
Yeah.
to forecast in general terms, like what Meyer's going to go for,
Yeah,
I
or
do
what
look at these
Mercer's
guys
going to
and
go
like-
for. That's going to be a big deal.
Wizards
Yeah,
of Oz. I don't know how
Is
they
it
do
$5 million? Is it $6 million? All those numbers count. So
Yeah,
You talk
absolutely.
about a guy telling us like who's playing for contracts this year. Dawson Mercer is one. He's up for an extension next year.
Good
He's
point,
gonna
yeah.
if he lights it up, that boy's gonna want to get paid, and I think you give him whatever.
would you bridge him or would you just go full on next big contract?
lock him up?
Lock him up.
I'm not saying
Oh,
8
if you can,
years.
but if he comes out on fire, he might want to just play the field. His agent and him might be like,
Yeah.
dude, don't jump on anything. You're having a great year. Let's see, how the year pans out. You might be do a big payday from somebody.
I mean, he's already near 30 goals, so his contract's already being somewhat drafted. You know what you get with that kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a 30-goal guy. You're a $6 to $7.5 million a year dude.
Yep.
So
And as
If
they
he
raise
can
the cap,
consistently
somebody's
do
going to
it.
be able to shovel more money at him to pry him away from you. That's the downside of the
that's
cap
the other problem.
going up. Yeah.
Fitzgerald's
Yeah.
getting so much respect. I mean, I've been hearing it all over the place because our contracts are like
good.
really team friendly for these young
Not
guys.
at the awards, but he should have been
Yeah,
there.
you
you
know,
know.
you know.
true.
But I mean, he's
I think
really
people
way
know,
to
though, you're right.
focus, You know.
Yeah, he's done a very good job, and he's got this core together. It looks like it's the right core. Looks like it's the team looks like they're going to be together for a very long time and be very good together. There's not many guys. I don't think there's any guys really that I look at this team and I'm like, why the hell did we sign this person? I bitched and moaned a lot about Blackwood the last few years and Severson and his mistakes and everything.
I don't see those
but
problems
we don't-
anymore.
We don't have those
right.
problems anymore.
And honestly,
Yeah.
that is like the biggest thing going into this season. That I'm just like, I don't know what to do with myself.
You'll find
All the
you
play,
guys.
that negative
You'll
energy I
show
had
up.
around those two guys, it's just
You'll
amazing
find
that it's
something.
gone.
Smart.
I hope not.
I mean,
I hope
Smith's
it's
gonna
not
have his
me.
target on his back.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean,
But,
literally, just the
don't know.
Blackwood starts alone. If that were split with the other two goaltenders, Carolina's a few points behind us last year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Literally.
Exactly.
So that's nice to know.
On the Toronto game, there's 2 more points.
That's
It's
true.
gonna be a lot of fun this coming season. I cannot wait. And the next show, like I said, I'm not sure if it's gonna be this year or this show or next show, but we're gonna do our draft for anybody listening. So we're all going to draft our perfect Devil team, but we're only going to be able to use Devil players that have played on this team, but one time around. We're going to do a regular snake draft, and we're each going to pick our 4 forwards, left wings, right wings, defense, and 2 goalies. So we're going to go over that. That'll be fun. Then we'll post it up on Twitter, and you listeners can tell us who they think has the best Devil team.
And if anybody out there has some way of running these teams with some kind of simulation or NH, because I was talking about this with the guys, and I guess this thing of imagining doesn't exist, where you could play a team that you made in fantasy against each other, AI wise or whatever. It'd be interesting to see if some third party would come down on whose team played off well against whose team. That'd be very
I'm sure there's some
fascinating.
kids who play NHL, whatever, and they
Yeah.
have the all roster team ever.
That's what I'm thinking
You just
about.
can't pick your jersey, probably. The computer's already there, but
I gotta
they
look
could
into
probably
that.
put it
If
together.
there's a game like that, let me know. I'll buy the game because I want to know what AI of some kind of degree or another thinks of our picks.
Well, any listeners out there, if you know of what Dan is speaking in a way that we can do that, please let us know. You
Yeah.
can hit us up at unclepuckers@gmail.com or DM us on Twitter. Check us out on anywhere you get your podcasts, Amazon, Apple, Spotify. Give us 5-star review. Goes a very long way in helping us promote the podcast. Download, subscribe, like, tell a friend, all that other good shit.
So it's a lot of stuff, but
A lot of stuff, but we will be back in a couple of days to give you a little bit more summertime New Jersey Devil content. For Bobby, Dan, Tony, I'm Chris. We are at the Uncle Puckers, and we will see you when we see you.
Peace out. Later.
It's over, Johnny. It's over.
It's over.
That actually worked out better than I thought it was going to.
I like that. It was a great idea.
Yeah.
you had.
That was
I
fun.
mean, I think we know the Metro a lot more than some of these other divisions, though.
I was gonna say we could do the other divisions, but it'd be kind of tough.
It's going to be a little tougher.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys want to try it.